Welcome to Voices of Dissent, where we listen to true stories of activists who might have broken the law to do what is right.
Yeah, my name's Don Staniford. I've been studying the environmental impacts and welfare impacts of salmon farming for 30 years.
Wow, 30 years. That's longer than I've even been alive. In that time, he has worked for a lot of different organizations in a lot of different countries. When he was in Canada, he met someone named Alexandra Morton. She's the pioneer of filming inside these aquatic farms with a GoPro camera on a stick. So then when he went back to Scotland, he and a guy named Corin Smith had to try it for themselves.
So you may have seen some of the gruesome video footage from Scotland that's been on Netflix's Seaspiracy, Netflix's You Are What You Eat, and various documentaries around the world.
Could you tell me how it works that you show up and you just how does it work filming undercover in these places?
Well, it's much more simple than if film pigs. You have to break in or you have to get into a factory farming unit on land, but in the sea. In these lochs in Scotland or these fjords in Norway where they farm the salmon, it's a completely open environment. And if you go there early in the morning or in the evening when there's no one there, you just kayak up. Some people go up in dinghies, some people swim out.
Wow.
And you just hop onto a cage.
Do the companies say stuff like, yes, he's endangering the fish by going there?
Yes, the salmon farm companies try every trick in the book. They try every excuse. Covert surveillance that I do and others apparently endangers the health and safety of the workers. It endangers the welfare of the farm fish. We could potentially spread infectious diseases. So everything that we do, we try to minimize any disruption. We're coming in kayaks, or some people are actually swimming to farm. So there's no impact on welfare of the fish. It's the salmon farm industry itself that are killing millions of fish. They're impacting on the welfare of fish. And we also take appropriate biosecurity.
Yeah, it's so crazy for the farmers to claim that they are the ones to care about the animals while they are sending them to slaughter. And Don, unlike the farmers, isn't there to harm the animals. He is there to expose what the farmers are actually doing.
We've seen breaches of welfare laws in Scotland. There's the Animal Health and Welfare Act 2006. Section 919 is unnecessary suffering. So when we go to these sites, often we see dead fish or dying fish, and then you see fish that are clearly diseased. It's just a function of intensive farming systems. So when you jump off your kayak onto the farm, normally what you see are dead fish littering the surface of the cages, and then sometimes you'll see fish gasping at the surface. They're dead and they're dying, and this is just shocking. And then some of the drone footage that you can get when the salmon farmers are on site and in operation, you can see the dead fish being hoisted up, being lifted up from the bottom of the nets into mort bins and then driven off.
I read that 25% of the salmon you see there die before they reach the right age, right?
Yeah, the Scottish salmon farmers a decade ago, back in 2013, refused to give mortalities numbers. And the reason they gave was that if they published mortality numbers, it would be commercially damaging. But the numbers that we do have show that mortalities in the sea phase of production of salmon farming is about 25%. So 1 in 4 are dying in the sea. But you also have to add on the fish dying on land in hatcheries.
Wow.
They import the salmon eggs from Iceland and Ireland and used to from Norway into Scotland So we think the mortality rate from hatch to catch is 50%. One
Whoa.
in two don't make it. And if you compare that to chicken farming, pig farming, sheep farming, other terrestrial farming systems, that's shocking. There's high
Yeah.
mortalities in terrestrial agriculture as well, but salmon farming is completely on a different scale.
Yeah. And we also eat a lot more fish than other animals as well. So it's also.
Yeah, in terms of the numbers, you might have a million fish on a farm, on a salmon
Mhm.
farm. So in terms of sheer numbers of fish that are dying and suffering, it's huge.
So I didn't even know that they go from one place, they get hatched, and then they go to another place. So could you explain me a bit more about how it works, the salmon farm, how they do it?
On a farm, these eggs are sourced from hatcheries in Iceland and Ireland, and they're flown into Edinburgh Airport. Maybe 50 million, 60 million eggs imported into Scotland every year, and then they're hatched. Maybe 10, 20 million die in the hatchery, and then they're on grown in freshwater locks or and sea locks. So they're transported in big well boats, big ships, and then they're on grown in a different system. They may even be shipped around to different sites.
It's crazy. We fly these fish all over the world, but what's even crazier is what we feed these fish.
Is wild caught fish. It might be anchovies off the coast of
Oh.
Peru. It's a drain on the ecosystem, and it's a social nightmare because instead of being a panacea for the world food problem, salmon farming is actually exacerbating poverty and food insecurity in different places around the world. So, however you slice it, Scottish salmon, Norwegian salmon, farm salmon around the world is, it's a triple whammy. It's bad for the environment, it's bad for the welfare of fish, and it's bad for human health.
So when Don goes into these places to expose what's actually happening, the companies obviously don't like that. So they've tried to sue Don a couple of times. You are now not allowed within 15 meters of a salmon farm, right?
No, I won on that. I'm now banned, and this is just Maui, the world's largest salmon farm. They wanted me to be banned from coming within 15 meters of salmon farms, but they gave that up in February 2024.
Okay,
But I
great.
am banned from jumping on their cages.
Hmm.
They wanted a ban on me using drones, even though I don't use drones,
Okay.
and they wanted a ban on me instructing others to do work. I am banned from 15 meters of Scottish Sea Farms. That's another company,
Okay.
and a third company, Backfrost. This is a Faroese giant. They want to ban me from 15 meters, and they want to ban me using drones, and they want to ban me stepping on farms. Maui won a case against Alexander Morton and others in 2018. Mikkel Froden in Norway, he's a Swedish fly fisherman. He got banned in 2019. So these salmon farm companies, I call them the Sal Mafia.
Mm-hmm.
They're very powerful, and they're using the law
Yeah.
to try and stop the public finding out what's going on.
So how many companies have tried to ban you from filming their horrible practices now?
Three,
Three different
three.
companies. And in Canada.
In Canada, I was subject to slap suits. That was defamation cases. That wasn't to do with covert surveillance. That was to do with
Okay.
images I published likening salmon farming to smoking and big tobacco.
So in total, you've been sued 4 times by companies.
Um, Maybe half a dozen times, maybe six by
Wow.
different agents. But I think
Okay.
in the music business, they say, well, there's a hit, there's a writ. So to some extent,
Hmm.
and you may not feel this at the time, but if you're subject to legal threats, to writs, it's actually a badge of honor. It's actually almost like a promotion. You're kind of
Yeah.
being targeted.
Yeah. You are doing something which they don't like you to do. So
Yeah, obviously there's some cases where if you're actually causing distress or breaking laws, then
yeah,
that's a fair
no,
point. But
hmm
certainly in the context of filming at salmon farms in Scotland, there's no law that we're breaking.
hmm
In fact, we argue that salmon farm companies like Maui are breaking the law.
yeah,
Our covert surveillance has caught them breaking welfare laws. So
hmm
it's not us that are breaking the law, it's them that are breaking the law.
yeah. So how did that trial go? What did they say to that? What happened?
It's still playing out at the moment. I'm trying to appeal a loss, but I won on certain aspects. They wanted to ban me from 15 meters, and they wanted to ban the use of drones. I've won on those. So even if I lose, I think I've won in terms of the court of public opinion, and I've won on certain aspects. And at the end of the day, they can try all they like to shut me out, but they can't shut other people out. They'll have to take lawsuits
Yeah,
and file legal actions against a host of other people doing the same thing. And I think with the use of drones and the technology that exists, and even from whistleblowers inside companies who are leaking information, they're leaking photographs.
hmm
The ugly nature of salmon farming is always going to come out in the wash. However much this industry tries to stop it, it cannot it cannot hide the truth.
yeah. So about Canada, you were comparing them to big tobacco, and then they try to stop you in that way as well.
Yeah, I did spoof cigarette packets like Marlboro, and I said,
Uh-huh.
salmon farming kills sea lions, it kills whales, spreads diseases. So I did mock up cigarette packets.
But you don't name a specific company on here, right? So how can they sue you for defamation?
Well, you make a good point, but I got sued and I lost.
Really, you lost?
Yeah, I lost. I won originally and then I lost and I was denied appeal. On paper, I think I owed them half a million Canadian dollars.
Whoa,
And yeah, they persuaded
whoa.
the judge that I had defamed a company, even though I didn't name a company, and I've still got a permanent injunction against 52 statements. So if I told you now that salmon farming kills
Uh-huh.
or salmon farming spreads diseases,
Because that's all factual. I don't understand how they can get away with that.
well, it's like have you watched one of those science fiction films about the powerful forces that stop freedom of speech and stop the truth coming out? We're living
Uh-huh.
in a world where corporations control the truth, corporations control the law, and they've hijacked the governments of the world. And there's certain things that we can't say, even though, as we all know, salmon farming does kill. It kills workers,
Yeah,
it kills wild fish, it kills seals, it kills sea lions, it kills whales,
the salmon.
it kills the salmon itself, it kills lobsters through the use of toxic chemicals. But yeah, I can't say salmon farming kills. If I said that to you right now, if I said salmon farming kills, I would be breaching an injunction. But I keep on saying them, and they can't stop the truth from coming out. And the simple fact is that the truth hurts, and that salmon farming does kill.
So, what are your plans for the future? What are you planning to?
So I think I'm gonna spend my last breath, my last living days filming inside salmon farms.
Good job.
There's 6 or 7 companies here. If I'm closed down from 3 companies, then there's another 3 companies, and there's more people hopefully willing to step up to the plate to do covert surveillance, because I think that's how we can win this battle. We can win this battle by beaming footage from the farms into the living rooms, into
hmm
Netflix, and to stop people buying farm salmon. And that goes for pigs and chickens and cows as well, other animals. I think the more people can see what goes on inside these torture chambers inside these feedlots, the better. And certainly, salmon farming is what I do, but you can see a lot of these disease and welfare and mortality problems in other terrestrial farming systems as well. And then don't forget the other types of fish that they farm in sea cages: tuna, cod, sea bass, sea bream in the Mediterranean, Australia. With tuna farming, they're by and large subject to the same problems.
Every year in the UK alone, around 77 million salmons are slaughtered. But this doesn't account for the number of salmons which die before they manage to get slaughtered. If this is 50%, like Don says, that would mean there are 144 million salmons killed every year in the UK alone. But this doesn't account for the number of fish killed to be fed to the salmons. People like Don are doing a great job exposing these places. But he needs your support as well.
Yeah, you can find me at donstaniford.org on my website. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook via Don Staniford, and just Google Don Staniford Salmon and you'll be able to follow me.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode, and I hope to see you next time.